Hi y'all, Renee here. Hey, I am here today to show you the beginnings of a new project that I'm working on. This was my inspiration. This is the cover of the Saturday Evening Post from August 3rd, 1918. And this young lady was a volunteer with the National League for Women's Services in the canteens that were run during World War I across the country for soldiers either returning or leaving or transitioning from one place to the other to get them a good meal and to get them some, just some, a place to go. And what this is from Wearing History. This is a reproduction pattern, and let me flip. She always does such a good job with her patterns, gives you history. But anyway, this is a reproduction from a Butterick pattern, number 1374. I believe this pattern was from like 1917, somewhere around then. She does call it a 1910s era, but I believe it was 1917 when this pattern came out. And this pattern was the official pattern for women who were going to be volunteers at the canteens. Now you could also use this pattern to create what they call a day apron to just do housework outside of the volunteering. This is an apron. It was designed to go over the top of your street clothes. I am making the long sleeve version, which was the official canteen uniform. And I'm also going to be making the cap. The cap is done in linen. And then the dress is chambray, or the apron is chambray. And this is a cotton piqué. I might be saying that wrong. Sorry, that's just how I say it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm putting together the pattern. This is a digital download from her Etsy shop, and it's actually pretty easy. I know it looks pretty complicated, but it's actually really easy. She does a really good job. She lays everything out for you. She gives you maps to follow. So each one of these pages is just an 8.5 by 11. I just used a colored copy paper. I have no idea why I have that colored copy paper, probably a mistake. And I just went ahead and printed it on that. Cut it down. You do need to cut it down. Like this is one page right here. And you do need to cut it down until you get just to the edge of these little gray marks and then those little circles. Now the little circles, they indicate where you have 4 pages coming together, and it helps you get them lined up well. You can also line them up. Now these I haven't glued, I haven't taped them down yet, but once I tape them down, I will really just butt those 2 pages up together and line it up really well. Sorry about that shadow. Just use regular tape. There's my little, oops, let me get you in focus there. Just use my little tape there. And I'm in my kitchen because that's the only place I have that is actually a large enough counter to put this together. And then you just cut your pieces apart just like you would on a regular tissue. Now she also does a certain file type that you can send out and have it printed. But this really was no big deal. This is the bigger piece. It had 56 pages to put together, and then there was a second one that had 16. But again, really no big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish putting this together, cut it out. I am gonna make a mock-up on some inexpensive fabric that I picked up at Walmart. You can get, if you don't care what color and you don't care what kind of fabric it is, you can get 4-yard pre-cuts at Walmart for a little over $10. So that's like $2.50 a yard. That is an amazing price for fabric. Fabric is so expensive right now. So I went ahead and picked that up because I do want to do a mock-up. They do say with vintage patterns, you really should make a mock-up first because vintage patterns are a little bit different, especially of this era, because these were designed for women who were wearing corsets. So their bodies were not in natural shape like we have our patterns drafted for today. So I may need to make some changes, although this is a pretty loose apron since it's designed to go over street clothes. So I probably won't have too many changes, but I still want to do a mock-up before I cut into, I don't want to say it's expensive fabric because the fabric that's called for by the the National League for Women's Services is chambray. So I'm going to be using a chambray, and then I'm also going to be using a cotton piqué, however you say it, for the cuffs and the collar and the armband. And then the cap is actually done in linen. So I'll be picking up some linen fabric for that. But I don't want to mess up my good fabric, so I'm going to make a mock-up. Another thing that I'm going to do that I'm really glad I'm doing a mock-up is I am going to attempt to sew this in a very historical manner by using my, my treadle machine that is from the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's made by Rotary Standard. And fun fact about Rotary Standard is they were sold off I think about the 1920s, 1930s, and then later in the 50s, that company was bought by Singer, who we know today. The other fun fact is that when I bought it from an antique store. The Treadle Belt was actually broken, and so I went on a search and I thought, oh, this is going to be pretty hard to find. No, Walmart.com carries rubber belts made for treadle machines. Who would have thought? So I know having a leather belt would be more historically accurate. However, I wanted to make this treadle machine actually usable, like on a regular basis. And I thought, you know, I'm going to go ahead and get a rubber belt. Maybe later I will break down and find a leather belt, or maybe even make one. We'll see. I like doing stuff like that. So that's my goal. I am going to give myself some grace if that goal doesn't come to fruition, because I have never sewn anything on a treadle machine, and I've never sewn anything on that treadle machine. So I don't even know if it's actually operational. So I'm gonna work on it a little bit, and I will show you the machine in a later video and let you know how I'm doing on this project. This project, my goal with this project is to enter it into the Daughters of the American Revolution American Heritage Contest. That contest closes in March next year. So I really want to get this done by, say, February. Giving myself, I think I've given myself more than enough time to get it done by then, but we'll see, because there is quite a bit of hand sewing that's done on this apron. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave you. I will be back from time to time to show you progress, bring you some clips of actual construction, hints and tips that I learn along the way, probably a lot of mistakes to show you how not to make them. And with that, I just ask, if you're not a subscriber, if you wouldn't mind hitting that red subscribe button. I am trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That would be awesome. And if you give me a thumbs up, that lets YouTube know that you like my stuff, and maybe they'll show it to other people. That would always be fun. And if you know other people who like the kind of things that I do here, I do a lot of crafty stuff. I do sewing, paper crafting, embroidery, cross stitch, crochet, just a lot of home type stuff. So if you know someone who may like that kind of thing, share my channel with them. That would be really awesome. And I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.